All right, welcome everyone to Digital Accessibility 101, presented by me, Nova. Let me open up my slides fully. All right. I just want to give you guys a heads up. If you have a question during the panel, please put it in the panel questions chat in the so it's not actually in like the stage chat. There's a separate one called panel questions. Put it there because panel chat goes really fast. And also, I won't be able to check the chat during the panel itself because I'll be far too focused on my slides and my script. But if you put in the panel questions one, I can read it, get to that at the FAQ, blah, 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 Q&A section at the end. All right. So what is this panel for? So this is for people who want to make your projects more accessible, but you're not really sure where to start. So we're going to give you a jumping off point. We're going to discuss the basics of Digital Accessibility 101. Oh, so who are we? Our name is Nova, and IRL, we work for a nonprofit whose mission is to create employment for people who are blind or visually impaired. So we are sighted ourselves, but we have a above average level of exposure to the blindness community and feel compelled to share what we've learned. What we have to say today isn't the end all be all of accessibility, but our goal is to inspire others to start thinking about accessibility, to take into account when you're creating projects so that we as a community can collectively become more inclusive. So here's what you can expect from today's panel. Accessibility is a topic far too large to hope to completely cover in a single presentation, even an hour and a half one. So we're going to be focusing on what we know best. So this presentation, again, will cover 101 topics, and we'll have a huge slant towards making projects such as art, social media posts, websites, etc., accessible to those with vision loss. We'll be covering the basics, but not every possible topic or technique. We will also be specifically talking about digital accessibility. If you have a question about something else, we ask that you reserve it for the Q&A session at the end, and we'll do our best to answer it. One more thing. What we'll be discussing today doesn't just affect people who are blind or visually impaired. Accessibility empowers everyone. The extra headings we're going to recommend you add to your essays will not only help a screen reader user navigate it, but breaking large blocks of text into distinct chunks is also incredibly helpful to someone with, say, ADHD who is trying to read your piece. Similarly, using screen reader friendly fonts for bodies of text is extremely helpful to someone with, say, dyslexia who is reading your website or zine. We've even benefited from image descriptions ourselves. We've been on Tumblr before, saw a beautiful artwork of a dragon, thought we knew who it was, but we're not like super into Wings of Fire, but we know enough. And then since there was alt text provided, we were able to check it and confirm, like, oh, okay, that is Darkstalker. I did get it right. So our goal today is to have you leave feeling empowered to begin making your digital work more accessible. Before we get into the strategies to help achieve this, let's talk about how people might be interacting with your projects. So, how does someone who is blind use a computer? Someone who is blind doesn't necessarily see just darkness. Someone might be able to see some colors or differences in light, for example. So there's a number of different tools out there for people to utilize. However, vision is not required to use a computer. If someone can't see the screen, though, then the mouse doesn't do much for them, and they'd instead use keyboard commands. With commands, users can skip between links, headings, and other things. But that doesn't explain how they would know what's being selected. Enter screen readers. Screen readers are another important tool for people to use, and one that will be the main focus of our presentation. Screen readers are programs that, you guessed it, reads out loud what is on the screen. Some of the popular screen readers include JAWS, NVDA, and Apple VoiceOver. So how does a screen reader work? Usually, the screen reader will start at the top of a web page and read from top to bottom. It will also note if something is a heading, link, or image. So here's our example. Heading level 1. Welcome to our website. Link. Check out our YouTube channel. An owl drinking water from a silly straw beside a laptop and empty bowl of soup. Image. Notice how the screen reader described the image? It knew what to say because that image had what is called alt text attached to it. Screen readers cannot predict what is shown in images, but if the creator includes alt text, then it knows to read that out loud. Oh, I had a little bit of a jump scare. I thought that was starting. It's like, not yet, Jason. We'll get to you. All right, so here's an example of someone actually using a screen reader, JAWS, to navigate to a website. Because instead of us just telling you secondhand about screen readers, we think it's important to actually show you a video of one in action. So this is Jason from SLCC Universal Access demoing one. Before we play the clip, we do want to preface this by saying screen readers talk at adjustable speeds. We suspect that Jason left it at its normal speed for this demo. We know a number of people who keep theirs at similar speeds because they're used to it and they want to get the information faster. We will be listening to another example later that is much slower. Well, onto the video. Take it away, Jason.
Hi, my name is Jason Holt. I'm with the Universal Access Department, and today we will be demonstrating a screen reader. With a screen reader, I, as a blind person, can navigate to a web page, and I don't use a mouse because I can't see where the mouse is pointing, but I can use a keyboard, and JAWS, the screen reader, will tell me where I am on the page and allow me to read various parts of the page. Okay, let's take a few minutes to actually see how JAWS works. Here we are at my main screen on my computer, and I want to browse the internet, so I will open up a browser. I'll press the Windows key.
Menu, search box, edit, type text in this edit field or press up or down arrow.
And JAWS announced that I have a menu. Then I want to find my browser. My favorite browser is Firefox.
JAWS 17.0, one of Internet Explorer submit, Word 2013 submit, Firefox submenu 406.
Firefox, that's the one I want, so I'll press enter.
Enter, leaving menus, Firefox, Mozilla Firefox, start page dash Mozilla Firefox, search clear.
That opens the browser. Now I'll press Alt-D to put my cursor in the navigation bar.
Alt-D, navigation toolbar, search.
Now let's go to our homepage, the community college's homepage. So I'll type SLCC
period EDU.
EDU. You notice that JAWS repeats to me each character as I type it. That way if I make a mistake, I can hear it and I can backspace.
Slash U HTTP://
And I can retype it again.
U search or enter address edit combo SLCC.
Now I'll press enter.
SLCC dash Mozilla Firefox page has 3 regions, 8 settings and 68 links. SLCC.
Oh, it says SLCC. It sounds like I'm on the right page. Okay, here we are on our home page, and I want to go to the accessibility page, the college's accessibility page. I don't know where that is on this screen, so I'll do a search.
Virtual find, JAWS find dialog, find what colon edit comp.
I'm searching for accessibility.
ACCESSIPLITY. Enter. Visited link accessibility.
Oh, it tells me I'm now on the link that says accessibility. That's what I want, so I'll press enter on that link.
Enter. Accessibility visited link. Vertical bar SLCC dash Mozilla Firefox. Vertical bar SLCC list. Page has 3 regions, 1 heading and 69 links. List of 2 items link SLCC slash accessibility. Okay, I'm on the accessibility page. If I press H, which lets me jump from header to header. Accessibility heading level 1.
Heading, I'm sorry, not header. Oh, I'm at the accessibility heading. Let's read what it says under that.
List of 7 items.
Oh, there's a list of items.
Visited link home.
Home.
Link web accessibility.
Accessibility.
Link web accessibility.
Web accessibility.
Link purchasing.
Purchasing.
Link web accessibility. Link accessible documents.
Accessible documents.
Link types of disabilities.
Types of disability.
Visited link captioning.
Captioning.
List N.
Now let's hear what the text says underneath the heading.
Web accessibility means that people with disabilities can use the web. More specifically, web accessibility means that people with disabilities can perceive, understand, navigate, and interact with the web, and that they can contribute to the web. One thing you should know is that having a screen reader by itself does not make the internet accessible to me. If you look at our homepage, and as I navigate through it, SLCC.
You'll find that there are headings
Summer classes heading level 2.
and regions which the designers have made some effort to put into the page that allow me to jump from section to section. So I don't have to stop and explore every little link to find where I want to be. On some web pages where there might be almost 100 links, but yet there's no way to skip to the main part of this article that I want to read. So I have to skip from link to link to link and jump from section to section to find where I want to be, the main article. Sometimes it is frustrating, but after one has some experience with a screen reader, you learn some tricks.
All right. So accessibility solved, right? Well, don't look at this slide but no, it's not solved. And yet, there are some things we have to talk about that mess with it. Because they are invaluable tools, but they're not a magic bullet. And at the end of the day, they can only read the information it's given as it's given. So here's a few things with that in mind that mess with screen readers. Or miraculously, what makes them spit out gibberish or nothing at all. First one is typing quirks. An example is like replacing the E's with threes. And we'll go more in depth on this point in a moment, but the addition of numbers and random capitalization confuses screen readers and the results are often gibberish. Missing alt text. Remember the example of the image from the last slide? The screen reader didn't invent that text. It had to be added by someone. If it's not added, then the screen reader has nothing to tell the user. We'll go much more in depth on how to write and add alt text later on. Missing capitalization and hashtags. Screen readers don't understand where one word ends and another begins when there's no spaces or capitalization. So, for example, a screen reader would read "dragons are cool" with no capitalization between the words as one word. And it would come out as complete gibberish. But if you capitalize each of the words, then it would read "dragons are cool." Right. Typing quirks. And I have another video for y'all. So this is an example of what it actually sounds like with several different types of typing quirks. We're going to play it twice, and then we're going to discuss. And also, I was going to give a quick note that all of the videos and resources and everything that we're talking about during this presentation, we do have in a document that we'll be sharing at the end. So you can have it for your reference.
This is how an S to Z typing quirk sound with a screen reader. Hi guys, aren't I so silly today? It's making me ZML so much. Unfortunately this screen reader can't properly read my sentence, so that's bad. This is how an I to 1 typing quirk sound like. TH1 sentence 1's US 1 nanogram and I to 1 tip 1 nanogram chi 1 RK. As you can see the words aren't be 1 nanogram read properly at all. This is how an E to 3 typing quirk sound like. This S3N3 NX3 cannot be R3 add prop 3 Rayleigh by SCR33 NR3 ADAS. It is incha 3 dbli unic 3 esable 3. This is how an S to Z typing quirk sound with a screen reader. Hi guys, aren't I so silly today? It's making me ZML so much. Unfortunately this screen reader can't properly read my sentence, so that's bad. This is how an I to 1 typing quirk sound like. TH1 sentence 1's US 1 nanogram and I to 1 tip 1 nanogram chi 1 RK. As you can see the words aren't be 1 nanogram read properly at all. This is how an E to 3 typing quirk sound like. This S3N3 NX3 cannot be R3 add prop 3 Rayleigh by SCR33 NR3 ADAS. It is incha 3 dbli unic 3 esable 3.
So as you can tell, screen readers and typing quirks don't get along. They keep stopping to read the numbers out loud, and it breaks the flow so much that it can be impossible to tell what's even being said. So this is the part where we're going to recommend that you don't use typing quirks. However, if you do, we recommend that you provide a translation. We'd also suggest that you note that a translation is being provided at the top so those who want it can skip to it. Kind of a tangent, but this is also a decent example of how screen readers handle spelling errors. It does its best. People are still very likely to know what you meant if you forget or add an extra letter. Or key smashes will also read as gibberish as intended. Oh, there you go. Alt text. So remember when we said before screen readers read alt text provided for images when it comes across them? But what if there is no alt text? Well, then it'll say what it does know. Image. Just the word image. or maybe the file name. Screen readers do not have the ability to detect what is in an image. For example, if text is saved as a PNG or a JPEG, the program will know it's an image, but it won't be able to read the text. So if this slide right here, I saved it as a JPEG, and then I had a screen reader try and read it, it wouldn't be able to tell that it had alt text written on it because it's an image file. That's all it would know. A person has to provide the alt text. All right. Example number 1. So let's jump right into an example. Without alt text, Dreamer couldn't tell that it says OnionCon24 because it's all together as an image file. So it's imperative that we include that detail as part of our alt text. But what about the rest of it? There's multiple things going on at once, several different characters, the background. Where do we begin to describe it? How to write alt text. The key to write alt text is to convey the visuals in a concise but complete way. It's tempting to want to describe every tiny detail, but it's not only time-consuming, but also annoying as alt text. No one wants to listen to a paragraph about the exact angles of a tiger's stripes. So here's our method. We start by describing the type of image. Is it a painting, a screenshot, maybe a close-up photograph of something? Pro tip, don't start with an image of. Why? And how does this not contradict what I just told you? Well, the screen reader already tells the user that it's an image. They knew they were being read alt text. Why what I mentioned before is different is because we're conveying something about the image, besides the fact that it's an image. Saying something is a screenshot from a particular video game conveys something both interesting and useful outside of the fact that it is an image. Next, describe who is doing what. For example, in the image we were just looking at, the Centaurus Festival mascot has their arm around Onion the cat. Where is it taking place? In a field under a starry night sky? The bottom of the ocean? Set the scene. Describe the environment the subjects are in. Again, don't feel like you have to describe every nook and cranny, every fern and flower, but be descriptive enough that someone listening to your text could visualize it. All right. Next, describe the colors in the piece. Is there a gray overcast over everything? Or maybe the background is an aggressive bright red? Is the photograph shot in monochrome? Color choices greatly affect the mood and symbolism in an image. Expressions and emotions. Another important thing to add is the expressions and emotions of any subject in the image. Are they smiling and laughing, or looking on forlornly? Like with colors, expressions and emotions can greatly affect how an image is perceived. Interesting features. The final catch-all. Interesting features include anything that is not already covered by one of the above categories, but is relevant to fully understanding the image. Use your best judgment. Pro tips. Again, avoid starting your alt text with an image of. This is because the screener will already be informing the user that it is an image. And it's not the end of the world if you forget and include it. We've certainly done it before. Remember, having alt text is already a vast improvement over not having alt text. Be concise. We've already said this, but be concise. Less is more, because adding too many tiny details can muddy the description. There's no need to describe purely decorative features, such as page dividers. As an example, we'll usually just put divider as the description on socials for a decorative divider in posts. Some programs will allow you to actually click a little checkbox to note if an image is purely decorative. Avoid adding in personal judgments. It's best to leave out your personal takes on the value of a piece, such as if you think it's the best artwork that you've ever seen. However, if something is purposely drawn bad, like for a meme, it's worthwhile to mention that. Also, don't add things in descriptions that are not being depicted, like what you think a character might be thinking about. Describe the most obvious features first. Get to the meat of the piece right away. If the text is huge and the figure small, start with the text. If you're unsure or everything is of equal importance, then we recommend working your way from right to left, top to bottom. Here's another way to look at it. Start with identifying who, their expression, a description of them, colors in the image, and finally, any interesting features. So for this example, we have a capybara, the who, looking relaxed, their expression, in a hot spa, a description of what they're doing, yellow yuzu fruits, the pop of color in the piece, are floating in the water, a description of what these fruits are doing, and one is balanced on top of the capybara's head, finishing off with an interesting feature. So here's our example revisited, and this is the alt text we wrote for this piece. Digital drawing in the style of Night on the Galactic Railroad, featuring the Centaurus Festival mascot, who is a jackalope wearing a sweater vest with a rainbow tie and his paw around Onion the cat, who is wearing a Hawaiian shirt and leaning in against the frame of a window with the night sky behind them. Superimposed over it are the words OnionCon 24. It may not be perfect, but it has all the major elements needed. It concisely defines who is doing what and where. We could make it longer by describing the font used or the exact details of the florals and Onion's shirt. However, less is more. If you add every tiny little thing to the alt text, it'll be cluttered and not only time-consuming to listen to, but also hard to understand. Our golden rule is to have the alt text give the same feeling reading that looking at the image visually gives. If it's a quick meme, a shorter, more to the point description would likely fit better. On the flip side, if the piece is an involved painting or comic, then a more detailed description will likely pair better. So here's another example. Here's an image we drew and the alt text we provided when we posted it. It says, "Thank you for feeding our local archivist," is written under a color sketch of 3 gold hydra heads leaning down to eat essays out of dog bowls. Adding alt text. Now we know what alt text is, how to write it, and why it's important. Let's discuss how you actually go about adding it to your work. Alt text in social media. So pretty much every major social media platform that we can think of should have the ability for you to add alt text. We don't have time today to discuss exactly where it is on every platform, so we'll just show specific examples from the social media we assume most of our viewers are using, Tumblr and Blue Sky. Generally speaking, most social media platforms put alt text options in similar places. So once you know where one platform has it, you have a leg up on finding it on all of the others. So on Tumblr, the option to add alt text can be found on the meatball menu, those 3 little dots in a row at the bottom of an uploaded image. Once you click on that, one of the options in the dropdown will be to update image description. If done correctly, when you post your image to your blog, there will be a tiny square on the bottom left that says alt. And if a user clicks on that, they'll be able to read your alt text. Because it's easy for everyone to tell if an image has alt text on Tumblr, something you might have seen users doing is putting image descriptions in their blogs for posts. Only the original creator of a post is able to add alt text directly to the image in the image description field. So when alt text isn't provided, users often will add their own into the reblogs to make the post accessible. There are even whole blogs dedicated to adding descriptions to posts. To do this yourself, write image description, and then add your alt text and finish with an image description. Here's an example. This is actually something we posted to our blog, and it says, this is exactly what we wrote in our reblog, where it said image description, text written over a photograph of a bog reads, "Are you tired? Come scream with us at the bog. Meetings every half moon at 3 a.m. End image description." You don't have to do it exactly like how we did it. Some people use ID instead of image description. Some people don't bother with the brackets. Just make sure it's clear you're describing the image and where the description ends. It's also best practice on Tumblr to then tag your post something like described or image described. On the flip side, if you're going to reblog something without an image description, it's best practice to tag them with something like undescribed. All right, so now we're going to talk about Blue Sky. Once you upload an image onto your post, there will be linked text that reads +alt on the top left. If you click on this, you'll be directed to a text box for adding alt text. Most other social media platforms will be the same, with the option being somewhere on the uploaded image. Look for edit buttons, meatball menus, or anything that mentions accessibility. And this is the HTML coding for adding alt text. So this is a before and an after screenshot of the image. And we bolded the alt text to make it easier to see. So the alt text, it's literally just ALT equals, and then you write it in there in quotes. So ours reads, crescent moon cradling a cliff with a wolf standing at it and howling. And this is the image we were describing. What about emojis? Good news. Screen readers can read emojis. So if you include, say, emoji heart in your social post, a screener will tell the user it's a heart, or a sobbing face, or a smiling face. Those already come with small descriptions. It's best practice to be mindful of how many you're adding, as each and every one will be read out loud. So if you include, let's say, 20 hearts, the screen reader will read heart emoji 20 times. All right, screen readers aren't the only accessibility tools out there. So right now I want to talk about a few other things that exist, so even though they won't quite be the main focus of our presentation. So these are refreshable braille displays and screen magnifiers. The device on the left is what is called a refreshable braille display. It sort of looks like a keyboard. What it does is as a user moves down a web page, it will have braille pop up on the nubs, so instead of hearing what's on a website, you can feel it. This is particularly useful if you need to navigate a website while, say, on the phone. The device on the right is called a screen magnifier. It does exactly what it says on the tin. It magnifies what's on the screen. Someone might choose to use this if they have some level of usable vision, but need things larger to be able to comfortably view them. There are many different types out there. This is just one example. Accessible websites. Accessibility doesn't end at just adding alt text to images. In this section, we will discuss ways you can make your personal websites more accessible. All right, descriptive link text. A common keyboard command someone using a keyboard to navigate would use is skip to next link. It skips to whatever the next link is on the web page. And next time you're browsing online, you can try this too. Just click the tab key. What this means is that it's likely people are skipping right to the link text and not necessarily knowing what's written directly above it. Imagine skipping to 3 different links in a row, all labeled click here. Click here for what? Where are you taking me? That's where descriptive link text comes in. So instead of click here 3 times, maybe the links in this imaginary scenario could read something like contact us, join our Discord, and download our zine. Next time you're going to link text, think about if the text describes where you are taking someone. Link text should make sense out of context. Another consideration is you also want your link text to be concise. It's annoying to listen to long links. Take this for example. Click here to contact us through email. It's a mouthful. Simply say, contact us is sufficient to get the message across. Add headings. We said it before, and we'll say it again. Accessibility empowers everyone. It's not just for someone with a screen reader. Everyone benefits when websites are easy to read and navigate. Adding headings to your website is one glaring example of this in action. Literally no one wants to read one giant wall of text. No one. So we recommend breaking your writing into chunks and labeling them. Don't be afraid to add quite a few headings either. Browsing a web page with a keyboard is a lot easier when you can skip between descriptive headings to find what you're looking for. Otherwise, you'd be stuck listening to every sentence, hoping it contains what you're looking for. So here's an example of some text without any headings. And this is the exact same text, but with headings added. Everything else is the same. Same font, same size, same length. And which one's easier to read? Which piece are you more likely to read or at least skim? Okay, and when you're adding headings, it's important to tag them correctly too. What do we mean by that? We mean that you tag the text so that a screen reader knows it's a heading. Remember in our example at the beginning how the screen reader said the title and then heading? That's what we're talking about. If you only increase the text side or bold it, that might help someone visually to break up text, but not so much when it's being read out loud. On something like a Word doc, there would be preset options like heading 1, heading 2, etc. But when you're coding a Neocities website, you'll need to utilize these. You can see it there. We have in the brackets H1, H2, H3, and then the P in the brackets, which is used for normal paragraph text. So the lower the number, the more important and bigger your text will appear. And heading level 1 is usually reserved for the title only. And then you'll have the other numbers like 2, 3, etc. being used for the subsections. All right. And now also label your elements. In a similar vein, you want to label other elements on your website, such as tables, iframes, and buttons. It'll follow the same idea as above, but utilize different coding. Basically, you just got to add a tag that informs the screen reader what it is. Tables. And also, quick reminder, don't worry, you don't have to memorize any of these screenshots or any of the coding. All of this is linked in our resources document that we will be providing at the end of the presentation. But just to give you an idea of what the process would look like, let's discuss tables. So the big thing of tables is marking what is a heading cell and what is not. This is important because otherwise someone with the screen reader will be able to tell what is a cell, but not have the context of what row or column signifies. So let's check out what W3C's example is. We won't go through all the possible different table arrangements. We're just going to show the two most common, the single heading and the double heading. Up first, the single heading. And these are probably the most straightforward ones, at least coding wise. Don't worry about memorizing. Oh, I already told you guys that. You guys already know I'm going to give you the links later. So anyway, in this example, the header cells are denoted with a TH tag. I've highlighted them in this red border in the slide. And the other cells have a TD one instead. See, it's nice and simple. So you can see here, TH date, TH event, and TH venue, where then you actually have February 12th, Waltz of Strauss, and Main Hall in the TD. But then the double heading gets a little more wild because you can't just do that same thing because you have to tell the user what's on the top and what's on the side. So, because you have to know it's Monday at 9, not just Monday in general. So how do we do that? Well, thankfully, W3C is here for us again. Yeah. Oh, I forgot I added the slide. But how do we tell the computer which title cells the data belongs to? Is all hope lost? No. Because once again, W3C is here for us. And I've highlighted what we do. So basically, you need a little bit of extra coding. So you still have the TH, but you add scope equals and then either row for the row or COL for the column. Not bad. All right, iframes. So an iframe or an inline frame it loads another HTML page within a document. A common example is when you get an embed code from YouTube videos. You're giving a code. So if you wanted to put the panel's over, I took my recording, I want to put it on my personal website, YouTube would give me this nice little embed video iframe that I could use. And actually the example picture here is from a YouTube video. So what do you got to do for iframes to make them accessible? Well, we recommend adding titles to the coding. Why? It's not needed to play the video, right? That's true, But without some descriptive title text, a screen reader user will have no idea what they're getting themselves into when they press play. What is this video of? Visually, a user could probably see the thumbnail on a screen and have an idea, but that does nothing for someone using a screen reader. So adding a title allows someone to skip or interact with your iframe with confidence on what they are getting into. And here's an example of how to add one. It's very simple. It's iframe. So you can see here it says title equals, and then you put the title in. Actually, in the example we showed you before, that was included as part of it. You can see here we underlined it where it says title equals YouTube video player. That's the default that YouTube gives it. Right. Button time. Find buttons. Do you want to make your site fancy? Who doesn't? And who doesn't love a good button? Whether it's to get users to subscribe to your newsletter, check out your social media, or register for something. Now, there's a lot of ways to do this, but we're going to focus on the basics and what we feel you're most likely to run into. Option 1, linked images. You go to your favorite stock image site, download an image of a button, and slap that bad boy on your site. How do you make it accessible? Well, it's an image file. You add alt text. Option 2, linked text. Something else you might consider is using linked text as a button. There are ways to make it look much fancier than my example, but at the end of the day, it's still text, and our recommendations from before still stand. What you need to do in this instance to make it accessible is simply make your link text descriptive. So instead of having something like click here, which tells the user nothing, try instead something like contact us or register now. You want your links to be concise, but also have them make sense out of context. Option 3, actual buttons. But were the things we just talked about not buttons? Well, no, not really. Sorry, I lied to you. However, we want to talk about them in this section because a lot of people use linked text and linked images that look like buttons and they call them buttons. But the buttons we're going to talk about right now are ones that use the button tag in their coding. By using the button tag, you are making a clickable, focusable element that is largely used on forms, like a contact us form, for example. And also, to make it more interesting, linked images and linked text can also be included as part of actual buttons. And also, an image file included as part of button code would still need alt text. This on the screen right now is the most basic of basic HTML buttons and what it looks like. We didn't fancy it up at all. It's literally just in the brackets button. So when would you use a button element versus like link text, for example? If clicking it is supposed to take you somewhere, use a link. If clicking it is supposed to do something else, use a button. If clicking it is supposed to do something and then take you somewhere, use a button. Okay, but how do we make them accessible? ARIA labels. As through our theme through this presentation, you have a thing called ARIA label, and then equals, and then you write your descriptive text. So what this does when you include it is it'll provide the screen readers additional information that might be lost if not looking at them visually. So it's a great way to differentiate, for example, between multiple different but similar buttons on a single page. Let's say you have an event page with multiple different events someone could register for, and you want all of the buttons to read register now, but also want to make it clear to someone who is skipping between buttons with a screen reader which event they are registering for. ARIA labels are not visually present on your site, but if a labeled button blah 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 but if you include the ARIA label, they would get that information from the screen reader, such as register for webinar number 21. So if your button is going to take someone off site or open a new tab, that information would also be helpful to include in the ARIA label. Right. All right. So I think we should have, yes. So I know that was a lot, and this video, I think, will very, very concisely summarize everything we just talked about and make it make way more sense. So this video will walk through what different buttons sound like with and without ARIA labels and images in them.
Let's take a look at a few ways to provide accessible names for interactive elements like buttons. In this case, a close button. I'm going to use VoiceOver with Chrome in this case. First of all, just a plain text node, the word close, using the characters C-L-O-S-E.
Close button.
You can hear it read close button. Close, which is the accessible name, which is also visible, and button, which is the role of the element. So that's correct. The second one uses a character to replace the close word.
Times button.
You can hear it says times button, which will be confusing in a non-visual context, even though the cross is quite clear visually. To fix that, we can use an ARIA label on the button element, which will override that. In this case, the ARIA label has a value of close.
Close button.
Now some image examples. The first example has a button with an image inside it without an alt attribute, so without an accessible name.
Button.
It just says button. In some screen readers it will say unlabeled button, which is very unhelpful. You wouldn't know what that button is for. In the second version, the alt attribute is on the image, it contains the text close, and the button inherits that accessible name from the image.
Close button.
All right. So, in summary, link text that looks like a button, add alt text. Link text, double check that the text is descriptive. Button tag, add ARIA label to it. So here's an example. Let's say you have an image of the YouTube logo at the bottom of your NeoCities website that links to your YouTube channel. Well, that would count as a linked image, and so you'd have to add alt text. And in this case, I'd say something like YouTube logo. Or maybe check out my YouTube channel or something like that. All right. So this is a lot to remember. And when you're building a website, there's a lot of different pages and parts to keep track of. So we recommend using an accessibility checker. And this one is our favorite. It's called the Wave Accessibility Checker. And there's a lot of different ones out there. But basically, you paste your URL into their web tool, and you get a report back with suggestions to make your website more accessible. And why we particularly like this tool is it's free. That's it. It's free. A lot of the other ones will like, oh, you get like 3 checks, and then you need to give us your credit card. No, you're gonna need more than 3 checks to get through your website. Like it's so helpful to be able to just like you put your site right up there at the address bar, and then you make a little change on the coding side. You can hit that little refresh button, and it'll update the whole report. It's really snazzy. Highly recommend. And what's nice too is that it doesn't just say, hey, you got 100 errors. It'll give you like, hey, contrast errors, alerts. It'll tell you what it is, and it'll also give you details about like why it's giving you that error and how you can go about fixing it. So yes, highly recommend, and this link isn't included in the resource document we'll be providing as well. So it's just a really nice way to make sure you caught all your images have alt text, and you've got good color contrast in your design, among other things. And speaking of color contrast, it's time to talk about visibility. So we've spent a lot of time talking about making things accessible to screen reader users. And I really felt like that was an area a lot of people watching this presentation wouldn't be familiar with, so I wanted to spend extra time there. This next section is titled Visibility, And this is how to make the visible portions of your website and other projects easier for everyone to see and engage with. Color contrast. It's not just about aesthetics, but also accessibility. White text on a white background is impossible to read. But what about beige text on a white background? Yeah, you can read it, but it's a big pain. Here's an example of what we mean. Which one is easier to read? The navy text on the white background or the gray-blue one? The navy one is, because it has a high contrast with the white background. It's easy to look at these two things side by side like this, but what about when you're creating things? How can you tell where the line is and if your text has enough contrast? Well, we recommend using a color contrast checker. This is just one of many. We just think this one is particularly easy to use. And it's nice that it gives you a little like an example and a report. It's just very user friendly. So it's called Coolers Color Contrast Checker. And this is a screenshot from their website. This tool allows you to set the background and the text color and then provides the report card below. Contrast is measured using a formula that gives a ratio ranging from 1:1, no contrast, black text on a black background, and 21:1, maximum contrast. For example, black text on a white background. The tool we mentioned provides you a score out of 21, rating different text sizes as well, with anything over 7 being considered very good and anything over 4.5 being considered good. Remember our good friend Wave Accessibility Checker? If the thing you want to know, if you want to know if you have good color contrast on your website, this includes it as part of its report. You can see it has contrast errors included right there. So you could also use Wave Accessibility Checker for that. But again, that's websites only. It won't help you with your artwork or your social posts. In a similar vein to color contrast, we're going to be talking now about fonts. Some fonts like Comic Sans and Arial? Man, I'm not good at pronouncing font names, but I think you know what I mean, are significantly easier to read than something like, say, Chiller or Papyrus. It's best practice to use sans serif fonts for your digital projects. That's the fancy name for fonts without the little feet and flourishes on them, which are called serif, which they are sans. Some examples include Verdana, Roboto, and Open Sans. On the flip side, some examples of serif fonts include Times New Roman, Garamond, and Minion. Serif fonts are the norm in print media, but sans serifs are generally recommended for use on the web. So let's look at some fonts side by side. On this slide, we have 3 different fonts, same size, same sentence. The first one is an Arial, the second is Georgia, and the last is Pacifico. Which one is the most legible? To us, it's hands down the first one, Arial. But Georgia isn't too bad. However, Pacifico is really hard on our eyes. It might be fine as a short heading for emphasis, but as body copy, could you imagine? So here's the text from before, but it completely in Pacifico. It's extremely hard to read. Please keep fancy, hard to read fonts for the headings only. So here's it again, but this time as only the headings. The body text is in Arial. This change makes it significantly easier to read. You get the benefit of fancy looking text to draw in viewers with the added benefit of being able to easily be read. Google Forms. Google Forms are surprisingly accessible. So if you're hosting a survey or collecting submissions, don't be afraid to use it. Just keep in mind what we've already discussed. Keep your link text descriptive but concise. Make sure there's good color contrast between different sections, text boxes in the background. Oh, and be mindful of fonts and sizes used. And if you include images, provide alt text. PDFs. What sets PDFs apart from other things we've talked about today is that they contain a little bit of everything. And so we'll be talking first about accessible PDFs with Acrobat, and then that's easy mode. It has It's a section literally called Prepare for Accessibility. And it walks you through, like, oh, you should do this and you should do that. And you might have to scroll to find the option for Prepare for Accessibility. It's on the tool set, but it is there. And once clicked on, it'll bring up a host of other options. One of them is called Add Alternative Text. If you click that, a pop-up will appear and allow you to click through every image file in your PDF. There's a little checkbox that you can click if an image is simply descriptive and it doesn't require a description. Nifty, right? Unfortunately, if you want to change the alt text on one picture only, you'll still have to click through all the others in order. If text is part of the image file, it still needs alt text. However, selectable text in PDFs will get picked up just fine by screen readers. What we are calling selectable text is literally text that you are able to select and highlight and even scroll through. What we talked about with visibility applies here too. You want to consider the color contrast of your text, images, and background. Be mindful of your font size and style. It's best practice to make as much of the text selectable and not part of an image file as possible. Why? Well, for starters, it makes it way easier to add alt text. But also, it's easier for users who zoom in or use screen magnifiers to be able to read the text. Text as part of image files is prone to distorting when zoomed in. However, normal text doesn't do that. The selectable text stays sharp and crisp and easy to read. The other big thing to consider with PDFs is reading order. You want users to read things in the proper order. Acrobat does an okay job guessing what should be read first. But especially if you have a lot of images or non-linear format, it will need some help. There is an option for fixed reading order in the Prepare for Accessibility toolset. However, there's another reading order tool we're looking for. This one is a tab on the right-hand side. It looks like a letter Z with squares in the corners. When you click on this, a panel will open and a list will appear. The list is the reading order of your current page. The element that is number 1 will be read first, then number 2, 3, and so on. Adjusting it is easy. All you need to do is click and drag the items on the list into the desired order. Done. All right, so one more major accessibility consideration we want to touch on with PDFs is fillable forms. Under the Prepare Form section, there's a list of options to add things like text fields and checkboxes. When you start adding them, the default labels will be things like text field 1 and text field 2, and that's not very descriptive. What is someone supposed to put in text field 1? It's not clear unless you label it. So, as you create form fields, give them names by double-clicking on them or right-clicking and selecting your name from the drop-down. Name them things that are descriptive, but also concise. All right, let's recap. The basis of an accessible PDF is good visibility. Choose fonts and sizes for your body text that are legible. Also, carefully consider the color contrast between your elements. Image files require alt text unless they are purely decorative. In that case, you would select the decorative checkbox when adding alt text. It's also best practice to keep as much of the text out of the image files and selectable as possible. Click and drag items on the reading order tab to make sure the list is in the intended order. And finally, if you make a fillable form, it's imperative that you label all of the form elements. There's more we could dig into with PDFs, but they end out of the 101 level. If you do the things we mentioned here, you should be set for most of your projects though. Okay, but I'm sure most of you are sitting here thinking, like, that's great, but I don't have Acrobat. Then things get a little more wild. So we have a few different options depending on what program you're doing, what's available to you, but we're kind of doing it live. Unfortunately, Acrobat kind of has a really strong grip on PDFs and editing them. But we're going to assume if you're not using Acrobat, you probably have something like Canva, LibreOffice, or Microsoft Word, and you're exporting your final product as a PDF. So plan B is, because plan A is using Acrobat, so plan B would be to use the program you created the document in and make it as accessible as possible. Like go to the Canva document, go to the Word file, and add as much of the stuff there as you can. So I know for a fact that Canva and Microsoft Word, and I'm pretty sure LibreOffice does too, have the option for adding alt text. You right click on an image, and in the dropdown, that's one of the options. And should also be able to register different headings as like heading level 1, heading level 2. I know all of those options have it, and many other programs should as well. Yeah, so it's just kind of going through using the original program to do as much as you can. I've seen people also recommend, well, so plan C then is opening up a PDF and something else that can do these functions. So let's say you didn't make the document. Let's say someone else made it and sent you the PDF, so you can't open the original document. I've seen a lot of people say, "Hey, we'll just open it in Microsoft Word and add whatever you need to yourself." Uh, it depends on what's in it. Because if you have a document that's pretty much all text, you'll probably be okay if you do that. And you open it up in like Word or something and start editing it. But if you have any pictures, it'll eat your formatting. It's so you can try doing that, but every time I've tested it, it hasn't come out okay. But I'm including it because, like I said, maybe if it's all text, you just need to add one thing at the end or something. You can get away with it. But yeah, I most of the time that won't work. All right, plan D and E. So these ones, I understand what I'm about to tell you are more work and not ideal, but that's why they're plan D and E. That's why they're not plan A, B, or C. So here's something else you can do. So let's So you could add alt text as normal text in the document. Like you don't like I remember when we were talking about Tumblr and I was like, yeah, some people will just reblog it and add the description in their blog. That's kind of the same idea here. You could just have your image and then below it just put like image description, whatever, and image description. So it would still be visible to so people would be able to see it when they're scrolling through your document, in that case, obviously, but screen readers would be able to interact with your document then, which makes it accessible. Something we've done is create an audio version of a project. So we've run to PDFs where we wanted to make them accessible, but they were, say, extremely long, and it wasn't really feasible to add like 100 pages of image descriptions to a comment section. Instead, we recorded ourselves reading the material, including image descriptions, and we uploaded to YouTube. Again, I understand that what I just recommended to you is a lot of work, but I'm just throwing it out there because it is something you could do, but I understand it's not feasible for everyone. Or something else that could, depending on what you're making, you could like if you're posting it, like say on social media, you could maybe put like a transcript in like the description of the post or something. I guess that would be an option too. But so it wouldn't be in the PDF, but it could be like nearby or like, hey, here's the PDF and here's a Word document that has all of the descriptions in it or something. It might help. It kind of depends, I guess, what's in your PDF, but just throwing it out there. But also, like with the audio version, kind of steering back towards that one, it is a lot more work, but it also is nice to have. It's a huge boon to your audience because a lot of people benefit from having multiple different ways to consume a piece of media. So now instead of having to read a 100-page document, they can listen to it on their daily commute or while they're working on something else. And because of this, more people are likely to engage with your project. All right. So our hope is that you will leave feeling empowered to begin making your digital work more accessible. We do not want anyone here leaving feeling like a bad person for never considering or having done any of the things we talked about today. Unless you yourself or someone else close to you was impacted, you've probably never heard about these topics before. Or even if you have, it's unlikely that the gravity of why it's important probably wasn't imparted to you. Accessibility isn't something that is taught in schools or talked about nearly enough. What's more important than what you've done in the past is what you'll do next. Once you know, then you can start making different choices. We've been on Tumblr, for example, for 13 years. It's only the last 2 years that we've started adding image descriptions to our pieces. It's impossible for us to go back through years and years of posts and start adding image descriptions. There are literally thousands of posts on our main blog. We can't backtrack. It's just not possible. So we worry about our new posts. In a similar vein, sometimes you just miss things. That's okay. Correct them when you notice. It wasn't until we were writing the script for the presentation that we noticed some of the links on our own website were light gray against a white background. Just awful color contrast. And dear Lord, there's this time that we were publishing a quote unquote accessible zine and realized a few minutes after we had posted it live on our socials that in the social post promoting it, we forgot all text. The cover of the piece. Oh God. It was so close. It was so far. All this is to say, we hope we've inspired you, but not overwhelmed you. Take it slow and make changes where you can. Pop quiz. All right. So shout out in the chat if you know the answer. Whoop. And I'm going to take off my full screen so I can actually interact with chat. What is the purpose of a screen reader? Yep, just shout it out in chat. Mm-hmm. Yep. Perfect. Excellent. Yep, it's to read what's on the screen. And its purpose is to help people who can't view the text visually. Excellent. All right. Doing real good. But what is alt text? Mm-hmm. Yep. Text that describes an image so that a screen reader can describe it to a user. Yep, it's text that is describe an image. Yes, actually. Yes. Perfect. And also, fun little aside, there actually is some technology that's up and coming. Because I mentioned before, like, hey, the screen reader doesn't come up with alt text, but technology is coming out that is working to do that. So I was literally just having a discussion with my coworker yesterday morning, and they're telling me about some programs that they use where they take a screenshot and then it'll like describe the room to them. And I thought that was so cool. That's not something everyone will have access to. I think they have to pay for that, but it's cool that the technology is like getting there. You know. All right. But this is a more difficult one. Are y'all ready? Name one thing that can impact how easy text is to read. Yep. Yep. Typing quirks can definitely make it hard. Sizing, spacing, font choice. Yes. Mm-hmm. Contrast between the color background and the text color. Yes. Yeah. When I was making this presentation, I was looking to commission someone, and I'm not going to say who it was or anything, but I went to go look at their prices, and it was a pastel like rainbow background with white text. I remember looking at it and I was like, I can't even tell what the prices are. I'm going somewhere else. Like, yeah, it it's it's important. Yeah, hashtags too. Yep. That was something I didn't learn until I started working where I do, and I was like, "Yeah, I didn't." It's like, "Whoops, gotta fix that." Alright. You guys are so smart. Alright, but I'm saving the harder one. I think this is the hardest one. What are 3 accessibility considerations to take into account when building a website? Not 1, but 3. Yeah, you can name at least 1. Yep, labeling links clearly, specifying for links clearly take you, yep. Alt text and images, headers, headers and separation of content, actually labeling where links go, font and color choice, yes, absolutely. Perfect. Yeah, actually, I kinda teased at the beginning of this presentation, that I'm making another accessibility one for next year, and that's gonna be the topic of it. I'm planning to make one that's specifically about websites because 'cause I'm assuming most people, that go to these conventions, as in Ultra Human conventions, are make their own websites and are coding them, and I wanna actually walk people through, like, "Hey, this is what the code looks like, and this is where you start writing it." Yep, alt text, buttons, headers, hierarchy and text, excellent. Yeah, oh god, someone made a when I printed this at OtherCon, someone made, like, a star, like, an award, like, "We're smart," and it was God, I should have saved that. I dropped the ball. I'd open up my file explorer to try and show it to you guys, but I also don't wanna, like, have you guys see my all my files. Damn, could've. I'll give you guys emoji stars. Alright, I have 1 more? 1 more. Alright. You have the YouTube logo on your website that links to your YouTube channel. How do you make this accessible? Yes, making a website is fun. It's a lot of work. Um, yes, with alt text. Absolutely, Skyla. I thought it was super interesting. This is a little off topic, but I'm excited, so I'll tell you anyway. Um, in the where card section of Halcon, one of the options specifically is it provides coding so you can put it on your website. I thought that was so neat. That's God, who's the user's name? The Dragonheart Collective. Their where card it comes with coding that you can use and edit. I thought that was so cool. Mhm. Yep. Awesome. All right. So thank you everyone for attending and hearing us roll for over an hour about accessibility. We do have some time if anyone has any questions. It can be about something we talked about or something that's kind of accessibility adjacent, but just note that if it gets too far off this topic, we might not have the answer, but we'll do our best. Mm, Okay, so we have, and also a reminder if you will have a question you would like me to answer, please put it in the panel questions because then it's much easier for me to find and read it. We have one here. It says, when writing image descriptions, you mentioned that color scheme is important because it sets the mood. Is it worth adding an explicit note of the mood it sets? For example, people who've been blind lifelong and may not have personal experience of the feeling of that, say, a monochrome blue palette may invoke in the viewer, or should you just note monochrome blue color palette and rely on cultural osmosis to get the reason the artist may have picked that palette across? That's really interesting, Ronnie. I honestly haven't thought about that before, but yeah, it is. Hmm. I think if you I think either way would be okay. like if you added the extra context, I don't think it'd be on I think it could be helpful. And I think as long as you can do it in a concise way, and I don't think anyone would be upset that you included it by any means, but if you just said, "Hey, it's grayscale," I think, or it's monochrome blue or something, I think most people would kind of like you said, it kind of picked up that like, "Hey, blue is usually associated with XYZ." But yeah, I if I had to pick one, only one or the other, I would say including it would probably be the best. But as long as you can do it in a concise way. But it wouldn't be like the end of the world if it wasn't included. If you just said it like monochrome or something. No worries. Yeah. Something thank you. Yeah, something that we had come up both other times that we presented this. I guess we'll answer this just because we've seen other mention it. What do you do if you have conflicting accessibility needs? What do you do if someone really, really needs it in Comic Sans, but there's another user who just it's like the worst font possible and they can't read it? Like, how do you handle that? And I didn't really touch on it in the presentation because I feel like it kind of goes out of 101 category. I feel like it gets a little more advanced, but the answer is kind of just do your best. Kind of do what makes it the accessible for most people and know that no matter what you do, there's probably going to be at least one person that it doesn't like it or can't has more trouble accessing it. Like kind of like your website's white with black text, but someone needs it in dark mode, but someone else needs it in light mode. You just got to do your best. You can't but yeah. It's a hard topic. You just got to do your best. Yeah, our for our personal projects, we do Calibri 16 point 16 font for our like when we make zines and stuff. But you don't have to do exactly what we do. That's just what we chose. And we chose Calibri because that's what we use at work. So I figured that was a good option. And also it's a very common font, so pretty much everything has it. Yeah, if there's no other questions, I mean, if you think of something after I end the panel, you're more than welcome to ping me or send me a DM. So don't worry about contacting me if you have a accessibility question. But yeah, if there's no other ones, we can end early and everyone can have an extra 15 minutes back in their day to I don't know, go hang out around the con. Ah, thank you. Yeah, I care really deeply about this topic, so like I was always gonna yap about it, but I'm glad others find it useful as well. All right, then I'll end it here. Thanks everyone for coming.